After the initial outbreak in 2020, the COVID virus starts to mutate, making it impossible to find a cure. The mortality rate rises to 56% and the global death count reaches 110 million people. Only a few immune citizens are allowed to leave their homes as long as they wear the bracelet that marks them as such. Everyone is forced to do temperature checks on their cell phones every morning, and anyone with even a slight fever is sent away to quarantine zones known as Q zones. Rumors said nobody has come back from them. By 2024, society has been under lockdown for 4 years. Nico is immune to the virus, so he's been working as a delivery guy. One morning he brings a package to a wealthy house that has signs threatening to shoot trespassers. He rings the bell and the client scolds him through the speaker before asking him to put the package in a box developed by the Department of Sanitation. This box cleans the package before sending it inside. The client refuses to tip Nico because he's late and says that he wants a different delivery guy next time. Nico thinks the man just hates him out of envy. In a warehouse, Nico's boss Lester runs the courier company and keeps an eye on his employees by following them around with drones and GPS. Lester notices that Nico isn't moving, so he video calls him and discovers he's taking a break by playing some basketball. Nico is scolded for ignoring priority deliveries and sent back to work. Meanwhile, Emma spends her day watching videos online. When her mother Piper wakes up, Emma asks her if a friend can come over. Piper refuses because it's not safe for Emma's autoimmune disorder. They both take the virus test and pass it without issues, so Emma yells at her dad to remind him to take it too. William is exercising while watching the news about a newly opened Q zone. Reports say that the conditions in those zones are barbaric. Hearing his daughter's call, William rushes to take the test and also passes. At that moment, Nico arrives with some packages and Emma is excited to just look at a different person for a change. Nico puts the delivery in the sanitation box and is very grateful to find a generous tip. After leaving Emma's house, Nico sits on a roof for another break. He video calls his girlfriend Sarah to show her the wonderful view, which is tainted by Lester's huge billboard. Sarah shares the view with her grandmother Lita since neither of them can leave the apartment. In fact, Nico and Sarah haven't met in person and only have virtual dates. At the same time, Lester receives a message from a client because Nico hasn't shown up. He immediately calls drone operator Dozer and asks him to find Nico. The drone don't take long to locate Nico and Lester texts him, saying he has eyes on him. Nico just gives the camera the finger and keeps moving, only to suddenly find a checkpoint. Soldiers point their guns at him, so he quickly shows them his bracelet and they let him pass. Once all the deliveries of the day are done, Nico goes home and washes thoroughly. Then he works on his bike and finally finishes repairing it, getting excited to just hear the engine. Nico has been saving money to escape with Sarah to Big Sur, an area in California that hasn't had a case in 6 months. Now he just needs to get an illegal bracelet for Sarah. In the meantime, Piper gets a call from a friend who wants to make a trip beyond the city limits and knows that she has the illegal means to get them there. Piper charges $300,000 for the service and texts Emmett, her contact in the Department of Sanitation. The next day, Nico sneaks into an abandoned building and finds the office he used to work at. He fools around for a while and is happy to find a box of pencils. Meanwhile, singer May is live streaming for her followers. Dozer sends her $100 and tells her that her songs helped him during his military days. May sings his request, which is also being watched by William and Sarah. However, Lita isn't a fan of such sad songs and wishes they could listen to some salsa instead. At that moment, Nico comes to their apartment with a special delivery. Sarah opens the sanitation box and finds a poem from Nico plus the pencils. These mean a lot to her since she's an artist. They promise each other to kiss one day, but their sweet chat is interrupted by a call from Lester, who tells Nico to get back to work. After the stream is over, May messages Dozer to thank him for the big donation and convinces him to do a video call. She offers to be a friendly ear, so Dozer explains he's been in lockdown since before COVID. He became wheelchair bound during the war, and when he came home, people ignored him like they always do with disabled people, so eventually he stopped leaving the house. He hasn't been outside for 6 years. Dozer shows May his drone and confirms that things are as bad out there as the media says. That night, Emmett finds a man who escaped from the Q zone. The guy swears he's clean, but Emmett pulls out a knife and stabs him to death. In the meantime, Nico sets up a projector in his yard to play a movie for his virtual date with Sarah. They're interrupted by Lita, who says she's feeling sick and starts coughing. Sarah touches her forehead and confirms she has a fever. In just 2 seconds, the Department of Sanitation surrounds the building. The agents ring Sarah's bell, but she ignores them, so they start pounding on the door and get ready to bring it down. However, Emmett arrives and tells them they have the wrong apartment. Sarah watches on the security cameras how the agents break into her neighbor's place and try to arrest her. The desperate neighbor comes to Sarah's door and begs for help, so Sarah considers opening it. However, Nico convinces her to keep quiet for the sake of her own safety. The agents capture the woman and quickly take her away. Then Emmett rings Sarah's bell and says he knows she's there, so Sarah is forced to answer. Emmett informs her that there have been many cases in this building and asks if she's left the apartment. Sarah swears she hasn't, so Emmett leaves. Afterward, Sarah covers her whole body and brings some medicine to Lita, who keeps telling her to stay away from her. Nico soon makes it to the apartment, but he and Sarah keep talking through their screens. Sarah tells him that Lita has a fever, so she won't pass the test in the morning, which means the agents will take both of them. Refusing to abandon Sarah now, Nico spends the night sitting outside Sarah's door and they chat about their favorite memories together. Meanwhile, William puts on an oxygen mask and tries to leave the house, but he's caught by Piper. He swears that he has a work meeting, but Piper doesn't believe him and points out that every time he leaves, he brings filth to their daughter. William reminds her that his job is keeping them fed, so Piper reluctantly lets him go and tells him to burn his clothes when he comes back. Then Piper checks on Emma, who thinks her dad is doing something very dangerous. She calls herself weak and asks if her mother wishes she were different, but Piper swears she's perfect the way she is. Minutes later, William meets with May, who has put on a disguise and a mask to be with him as usual. However, William is tired of the masks and removes them before they do the dirty. When William comes home, Piper watches him burn his clothes. The next morning, Sarah does the virus test on her phone. She passes the test, but Lita doesn't, so the app says the agents will be there soon. Nico wakes up outside and overhears everything, so he asks Sarah to escape together. However, Sarah refuses to abandon Lita and tells him to leave without her. Nico promises he'll find a solution and rushes out of the building while Sarah has a breakdown. On his way out, Nico calls Lester and asks for 2 immunity passes. Lester can't help but tells him that Piper and William can, revealing that the packages he's been delivering are the illegal bracelets. After stopping at his house to get his savings, Nico rushes to the mansion and talks to the couple to ask for help. William pretends he doesn't know what he's talking about and hangs up. Then he and Piper have an argument, since only trustworthy people in their network are supposed to know about their business, but someone seems to have leaked the information. Desperate to clean the mess, Piper tells Nico that William was just being cautious and asks him who told him about them. Nico claims that nobody did, he only guessed because they're rich and could have connections. Piper pretends she has no bracelets left but gives him an address where he can get them. While Nico rushes to the location on his bike, Sarah checks on Lita, who tells her a few final words full of love before dying. Eventually, Nico makes it to an abandoned building and meets Emmett, who shows him his computer and asks for the identities of the people Nico wants to help to program the bracelets. Nico is hesitant to say, so much so Emmett swears he's on his side and offers his hand as a gesture of good faith. When Nico shakes it, Emmett stabs him and demands to know the names of the infected people. An angry Nico headbutts him to free himself and checks the box connected to the computer, only to find it empty. It turns out Piper sent him to a trap. Emmett calls his guards, so Nico runs up the stairs while his wound continues to bleed. The guards soon open fire and Nico has to hide behind some machinery while sneaking around the room. When he finds a can, he throws it in the opposite direction as a distraction. However, the guards follow the noise and find him anyway. When they're about to arrest him, Boomer suddenly appears behind them and knocks 2 men out before taking their gun and dragging Nico away. On their way out, Boomer explains he's tired of Emmett's men leaving bodies in his building, so he started to rebel against them. Soon 2 more guards appear, so the duo hides and Boomer opens fire. The guards take cover too and carefully sneak around to try to find them. Boomer manages to bring a guard down by hitting him with a refrigerator door, and Nico smacks the other one with a pipe to knock him out. An alarm goes off and Nico runs downstairs, but Boomer stays to fight. While Nico leaves on his bike, William calls Lester and demands to know where Nico is. Lester claims Nico isn't working today, but William doesn't believe him, so Lester instead lies and says Nico turned off his GPS. After they hang up, William tells Piper that Lester definitely spilled their secret. Nico goes home to take care of his wound and gets a call from Sarah, who tells him Lita is dead. Overwhelmed with guilt, Nico apologizes for not getting the passes in time and tells her to hide when the agents come for her. Meanwhile, May and Dozer still chat since they've become very good friends. May shares that William is a former record executive who promised to make her a star. He took her to that motel right before the pandemic started, so she got trapped there and he's been using her. She has a breakdown as she explains how lonely she is and how she has no future since obviously there won't be a record in her career. At that moment, she gets a message from William saying he wants to see her tonight. May doesn't answer him, so he starts spamming her with texts. Dozer notices May's distress and encourages her to stand up for herself. May tells William that she doesn't want to see him anymore and that only makes William send her even more messages. He also keeps calling her, so May eventually picks up to break up with him face to face. When William insists, May reveals she has tapes of him promising black market immunity passes. If he doesn't leave her alone, she'll post the videos online. All this is overheard by Piper outside her husband's office. A furious William hangs up and goes to get his gun, only to find it gone. Piper appears next to him with the gun in her hands and reveals she's always known about his affair. She doesn't care if William has a lover, but she wants to protect her daughter, and William keeps putting her at risk with his escapades. William tries to talk things out, but Piper points the gun at him and kicks him out of the house. Then Piper calls May and tells her to run because William is coming for her. May immediately calls Dozer, who agrees to let her stay with him. Nico arrives at the mansion at the same time William is leaving in his car, so he sneaks through the open door. Lester sees Nico's location on the GPS and calls Piper to warn her. At the same time, the Department of Sanitation surrounds Sarah's building, so she tries to call Nico, but he ignores his phone to avoid getting caught. Sarah then takes a picture of the sanitation truck. Emmett and his agents reach Sarah's door and break it down. Sarah hides in her bedroom, and when an agent comes looking for her, she knocks him out by hitting him with a bat. Then she takes his hazmat suit and puts it on. The mask keeps her face hidden so she can pretend to be an agent. She helps the others move Lita's body in a bag and leaves the apartment without suspicion. While Nico sneaks around the mansion looking for bracelets, Piper hides Emma in the bathroom. Then she confronts Nico and points the gun at him, scolding him for exposing her daughter. Nico explains he's also trying to save a loved one and swears he hasn't told anyone about her business, he just wants a bracelet. Piper takes pity on him and pulls out her computer to program the pass with Sarah's information, which takes a couple of minutes. At the motel, May tries to leave in her car but it won't start. At that moment William arrives and pounds on her window to break it. He grabs May by the neck and tries to get her out while choking her. Suddenly Dozer's drone appears above them and shoots William in the head to kill him. May screams and watches the drone fly away in shock while Dozer texts her that he'll always protect her. Once Lita's body is in the sanitation truck, Sarah waits until everyone is distracted and runs away. In the apartment, Emmett finally finds the unconscious agent and tells the guards to look for a fugitive. Minutes later when Sarah makes it to the road, she's surrounded by the Department of Sanitation. Emmett removes her mask and calls her stupid for running. She's been locked up with Lita all this time, so if she was infected too, she would already be showing symptoms. That means she's immune, so Sarah wants freedom. However, Emmett makes the agents arrest her anyway. Moments later Nico bursts into the apartment but only finds Emmett, who shares his story. He used to drive garbage trucks for the Department of Sanitation, but all his superiors started to die off, so he became the leader. Emmett thinks Nico isn't aware of how lucky they are to be immune because it means they've become gods. They can go around the city and do whatever they want without consequences. Suddenly Emmett pulls out his knife and tries to attack Nico, who takes Sarah's pencil to stab Emmett in the neck first. Emmett stumbles around the room for a few minutes before bleeding to death. On his way out Nico finds Sarah's phone and sees the photo of the sanitation truck. He calls Lester and says that he owes him one for telling on him, so Lester asks for the truck's ID number and contacts Dozer to start the search using the drone. In just a few minutes, Dozer finds the truck arriving at the nearest Q zone. Nico drives as fast as possible and arrives just in time to see Sarah being dragged out of the truck. The guards get ready to open fire, but Sarah frees herself to meet him halfway and Nico manages to put the bracelet on her wrist. When the agents grab Sarah again, Nico points at the bracelet and the agents scan it to confirm she's immune. They have no choice but let her go. Now Sarah and Nico can finally hold hands and share their first kiss. 3 months later, May is live streaming safely from her own home. Dozer finally removes the paper from his windows because he feels alive again and invites May to go to the beach by showing her the views on his drone. On the news, William and Emmett are being exposed for their crimes thanks to May's videos, and now Piper's house is being investigated. Piper lets go of her maid and sends her home to her family. Meanwhile, Lester receives a package with a letter from Nico, who confirms he and Sarah have escaped safely. Inside the package, there's an immunity bracelet. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.